Chapter 14, continuation, we're going to talk about the rate of evolution. Before we do so, a quick review. I don't think you need to write this down. This is just a general review. When we look at Darwin's theory of evolution, there's sort of four basic ideas, right? You have like begets like, with variations within the offspring. You have more offspring produced, right? And so we're going to wipe out a few of them, the ones that aren't the fittest. That in a population there is variation and mutations occur. These mutations will be, if they're valuable, carried down. And something that's generally called survival of the fittest just means right then at that moment the ones with the correct mutations survive. And that whole thing put together is called descent with modification. What I want to look at here is a whopping one slide. I want you to write down the next slide, and that is the rate that this occurs at. Alright, so a lot of people kind of assumed when they looked at evolution that it was occurring at a very constant rate across time. That you would get a mutation every couple thousand years that was helpful and that would consistently be passed down. And so you would have this constant rate, it's called gradualism, where things just gradually change over time. The problem with that is evidence doesn't quite support that. We don't see sort of gradual changes in the fossil record. What we see are more sudden appearances and disappearances. And biologists about 50 years ago started to work on this idea of punctuated equilibrium. And what that does is that argues that almost all the evolution occurs within the first 1% of a species' time on the planet. So if they're on the planet for 5 million years, the first 50,000 years or so, they have all their major evolution going on. And the idea of why that might occur is like maybe if your population gets wiped out and you end up with just a few individuals in the population, those traits are easier to change very, very rapidly if you have just a few individuals, versus if you have a very large population that's interbreeding, it's very hard to get a mutation through that population. The diagram here on your left, you're going to see what's called gradualism. So here you have butterfly, green butterfly, and we're going to end up with two different colors. Maybe the bark in the area is brown and there's some advantage, or orange I guess, there's some advantage to being this color and some advantage to being this color. And the way we used to think of it is it would just kind of slowly tick along and change slowly until you got there, and same this direction. It would just slowly tick along, and if these are two new species, this would be a phylogenetic tree here, and they would be equally apart. Okay. Again, we don't see this very often. We don't find these middle grounds very much. So punctuated equilibrium came along and said that there would be some kind of rapid change that would occur here that would give you this orange species, that it would occur very, very rapidly. Maybe this orange one got isolated from the general population. Same thing here with the purple one. Maybe it got isolated from the population. And again, you end up with speciation, but at a much more rapid rate. And these will continue on then for a long period of time with very little change. That most of the change occurs very rapidly, and then for the species life, you get very, very little change for long periods of time. And that's the equilibrium part of the punctuated equilibrium. You have a rapid change and then a long period of very little change.